everyone, and welcome to the Dribble Podcast, your home for basketball in WA, with an inside look at the Perth Wildcats, Perth Lynx and WA basketball throughout the 2021-22 seasons. My name is Craig O'Donoghue from the West Australian newspaper, and throughout the year I'll be joined by a host of guests to provide you with as much insight and entertainment as your basketball brain can handle. In this episode we'll be joined by Perth Wildcats guard Kevin White as he combines being in career best form with being away from his family throughout this stint on the other side of the country. Then former Perth Lynx coach and basketball WA Hall of Famer Andy Stewart will give his thoughts on the club's opening game of the season, Marina Mabrey's stunning impact and their brutal fixture. It was a weekend of two performances by American star shooters which made you stand up and say wow. Sometimes we take Bryce Cotton for granted and just expect him to be amazing, but his 19 points during the second quarter against Cairns was more than any other player managed for the entire match. Cotton achieved that in just 6 minutes and 17 seconds. Oh, and he threw in an assist and 2 steals along the way. Fair portion of the game for him. The Wildcats trailed by 14 points as he took his first shot. They led by 3 when he nailed his 19th point and went on to win 84-78. Then on Sunday, Perth Lynx import Marina Mabrey was hitting threes from the car park. We often guess when it comes to long-range basketball shots, but South Australia's Lights Community and Sports Centre has a volleyball court marked out on the basketball court. So we can actually check where the lines are so we know where she was. And we know that the volleyball line is 3 metres from half court, which makes it 11 metres from the basket, and she tied scores with 19 seconds remaining on the clock while more than 10 metres from the basket, and she did the same thing in the first half. But it was no avail as Perth lost by 2 points. And now we can move on to our guest for this week. From the Perth Wildcats, it is this man.
Steindl out for Kevin White. He shot the ball with confidence right throughout this playoff series. 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. The defense went to sleep and Kevin White made them pay.
Yes, he is a veteran of almost 300 NBL games, was outstanding during last season's grand final series and has been a vital part of the Perth Wildcats' winning start to the season. Kevin White, welcome to the Dribble Podcast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me on.
You're 4 months away from turning 35 and you're in your 11th NBL season, yet I reckon you could argue that you're in career best form at the moment. Career high minutes and assists. Your points per game has only been higher once. What's the secret to the way you're playing this season?
To be honest, I've probably staring down the barrel of retirement have kind of made me realise that life's a bit too short to kind of worry about too much. So I think taking a page out of Jesse Wagstaff's book and just relaxing and playing basketball and having fun with it rather than being so stressed about results. And I think that's kind of been what I've learned and something I wish I could go back and kind of relax a little more when I was younger. Would have been nice to kind of, hindsight's a beautiful thing. And I think I've found probably the right formula for how I enjoy playing the game and how I want to play the game late in my career.
So Jesse's probably the most relaxed athlete that I've ever met. When you get involved with someone like that, is it easy to say, oh, you've won umpteen championships, maybe I should be a bit more like that?
Yeah, I think it's probably not just the relaxed way he goes about it, it's the work he does as well. Jesse's probably the guy that is in the gym the most, on the court shooting the most, and probably putting in the most time in film as well. And it's no surprise getting here in the last couple of years and being around him that why he's had success, why he's been a part of such a successful program, and why he continues to just, I think, surprise people. But, what I see him do behind the scenes that no one else sees is probably second to none in anyone else, with everyone else in this league.
You spoke last season about how Bryce Cotton pulled you aside at one stage and said, "Oi, shoot the ball more because I'm giving you the ball and you're in space." And you're like, "But you're the superstar. I'm meant to give the ball to you." Do you look at it and think, well, yeah, it's very different over here. They play genuine team basketball for success, and it's not as much about the individual and worrying about how you're going. Is that a big difference?
Yeah, it is. It's massive. I mean, Trev used to talk about it all the time in terms of people making plays other than Bryce, because there's so many. I've never been on a team where you receive so many crazy different looks from opposition's defenses, and that's kind of what you have to do to try and surprise Bryce a little bit. He's that good that he's kind of seen everything around the world and where he's played, but at the same time, for his teammates, when people are just running away from you to go guard him once you've made a pass, it's a bit surprising at first. But then when, you kind of sit down and look at film and have the confidence that your teammates give you, it makes it a lot easier to play in this system and just enjoy that, that teams have got to focus on Bryce. If they don't, he's going to go for 40 or 30, and that's fun to watch. But at the same time, you're going to get some shots as well. Athletes
crave stability with game plans and coaches and just life, I reckon, because it makes everything so much simpler. You're on your fourth coach in 4 years. It's fair to say that you've been thrown different looks, different ideas, different suggestions of how to play, different personalities as well, different game plans. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I think probably throughout my career, I sat with Wags early on in this preseason, and we were talking about, the change of coaching. He's only ever had it happen once in his career. I think this is the 9th or 8th coach I've had in the NBL. The longest I was ever under anyone was 4 years at Bevo. Apart from that, I've had a different coach every year. So it's one of those things where as an athlete, I think I've always been kind of prepared for it. And it was a little different for Wags, but it was also, I think, a breath of fresh air to not be in the same kind of grind and routine of going through another one of Trev's pre-seasons that he'd done 7 or 8 times. So, it's different, but it's also kind of exciting. And like I said, it was a breath of fresh air for a few guys to have Scott come in and just change things up a little. That's not to say they didn't enjoy what Trev did because they had so much success. I think any of them would take any year with Trev again. But just a bit of change and a bit of breath of fresh air has been nice for a few of the guys.
It's interesting that Scott mentioned during a press conference a couple of weeks back that Jesse Wagstaff's ability to be in the best player on court with plus minus at the end of every game stood out to him. And the plus minus for people who may not be aware is what the difference is in the score when you're actually on the court. But when you look at the players across the league and where they rank, Jesse's ranked 2nd in the league for plus minus, Bryce is 3rd, and you're 8th. Out of the entire league at the moment. So it feels like Scott's game style suits you with the way you play as well.
Yeah, it has. I think it's going to take a while. We've still got some pieces coming back in. I think Nordo's played his first game last week. Mike has only played a couple games. We had Todd for a game and then he gets injured. Hodgie's only just got back in as well. So, there might be some more teething problems to come as this thing starts to really roll and all the pieces start to come back. But it's enjoyable to be a part of it. It's enjoyable to be a part of a group that doesn't judge anything you do. We have harsh words and you hold people accountable when you need to. But at the same time, it's just fun to be playing basketball and a style of basketball that's enjoyable. And it allows everyone to just kind of play to their strengths. Scott wants people to shoot the ball. He wants people to be aggressive and try and score. And at the same time, it's kind of my job is to put people in spots to be successful. Kind of just try and find a matchup or find matchups that are favourable to us and exploit those and try and just exploit them as much as we can. And I feel like when Jesse's on the floor, he does a great job of making reads in the bigs position, to help exploit those matchups as well. And, defensively, it's just something that's always been kind of natural to me. That's not to say I've been great all year. And I think that Cairns game, the start of the Cairns game was a bit surprising to a few of us. But at the same time, there was a group of guys that were able to get on the floor and actually claw that back. And it's fun when basketball's played that way.
How much fun is it being on Bryce Cotton's team instead of guarding him like you did for a long time?
Oh, it is the best feeling in the world. And I think even some days I get to training and I look at him and I'm like, we taking it easy today or are we going at it? And he'll just shake his head and I'm like, oh no, not another day like this.
It's funny. It's funny when you think about it, isn't it? Like, it's ridiculous that you had him as an opponent for so long. Now you're belting up against him the entire time during training.
Yeah, and like I kind of spoke about with Jesse, to see the work that Bryce does was, I think the other day he made something like 78 straight threes, and Scott yelled at him from the other side of the court, and he missed one, and he's just shaking his head, and guys are like kind of stand there laughing, but Bryce is genuinely annoyed that he had made so many shots in a row and someone yelled at him. But to see the body of work that he does on the floor and the time he's putting in, just to the group, and being able to make this thing, because, most guys would think that Bryce would just, I'm the superstar, I'll just take it easy, kind of let everyone bow down to him. But, the stuff that he does in pulling people aside, yesterday was an optional shooting day and him and I shot for half an hour, 40 minutes and just stood there talking for the next 25 or 30. There's not many imports that do that around the league. And I think, what he's done already and what he's going to continue to do is kind of second to none in terms of imports in this league as well.
We've got to go back to that 78 shots in a row, because that's an amazing tally. Like, what was going on? Was everyone else just stopping and watching him at that point, or we all, did some people notice and some people not? Like, what was the situation? Take us through it.
So we make however many, you have your little shooting segments and make however many in a row or shoot however many shots, and some guys had finished their shooting, other guys were still shooting, and there was just a group of us watching him. I think him and Jesse were still going. They do some shooting comp stuff after training most days, and I was standing there with my jaw probably on the floor at the fact that it was 78, and they were all 78 were like clean, like straight net. There wasn't any ring involved. It was just 78 of the cleanest threes you've ever seen, and then for Scott to yell out and tell him that he's got film, which probably surprised him as well. The coach is yelling at him mid-shooting. It's just another day in the life of Bryce, really.
He lives in a different universe to everyone else. He didn't play, obviously, during the grand final series last year, and that was where you had your big moment, where you just stood out. 10 points in game 1, 12 in game 2, 14 game 3. When you reflect on that now, how important was it to have a personal big moment in a big final series where you're saying to everyone, I can really play this game when I'm given the opportunities to be on court for an extended period?
Yeah, I don't really look at it like that, and probably having the amount of time I did at home with my family, my partner kind of called me during the playoffs and was like, because we had spent a bit of time apart. She was still in Wollongong and we were obviously over in Perth, and she was kind of a bit struck for words and didn't really know what to say. And she's like, geez, I didn't even think you could play like that anymore. And it kind of surprised me a little bit as well when she'd said that. But at the same time, that's kind of been stuff that I've done at training throughout the year. And it was just the opportunity arose. And that's what I know from being a Wildcat and from playing the Wildcats for so many years, that, the game I continue to talk about is an Illawarra game we had probably 6 years ago. And I think 4 of the 5 starters were missing. 2 bench guys were out. They suited up 8 people, and 2 of them being development players. And we're thinking, here we go, it's our chance to beat Perth. And they ended up coming out and beating us by 26 or something like that in Illawarra. And that just stands out to me as what Perth basketball has always been, what I've always known it to be, and what goes back generations for the Wildcats history. And I think that's pretty special. And in that moment, that's all I could think of. I wasn't thinking about myself. I was just thinking about the Wildcats and what they're about, what they've been about, and wanting to be kind of a little bit of part of that. Now, I would also trade all 3 of those games and the way I played for 2 wins and a chance to have a crack at the championship. Say it was 2-2, or just to take that to a 5th game. But at the same time, it'll probably take me a few years to kind of sit down and be happy with the way I played, because I don't think I did enough to win a championship, which is what we were setting out to do. You mentioned your partner before. Is it wife or partner? Fiance. We've been trying to get married for 2.5 years, and COVID continues to mess with that. Yeah, well, we had Mitch Norton on. He reckons it's going to be 6 years before he gets his wedding finally done. But today, it's Tuesday, the day we're recording this, and it's your son's 3rd birthday. You're in a different state to him. That must be pretty tough. Yeah, not easy. Obviously, you want to be around for those little things. And it just, I mean, we were meant to be on the road anyway, I think, when the original draw came out. So we were away anyway. I was expecting that. But, obviously just the state regulations and state government mandates just make it a little tougher for people to be able to be with families during these times. And for us, probably more so than ever, it's probably a little more testing because we don't really know when we're going to be able to come home. So it sucks, but it is what it is. It's one of those things that, my fiance and I, Rach and I, sat down with in the off season and kind of said, look, this is something we may have to deal with. We don't want to, but we were willing to make the sacrifice to come back and play for the Wildcats, chase and get back what we believe is ours in an NBL championship. And and this is the sacrifices that you make. And as hard as it is, at the end of the season, if we're holding up the championship trophy and we're putting another banner in the rafters, it'll all be worth it.
What's it like in Tassie at the moment where you're setting up? Tell us about your accommodation and how you're approaching the COVID challenges and just trying to deal with life as you move around the country at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice. Like, Hobart's nice. I spent a bit of time here playing in Seabull a few years ago, and we're in a great part of Hobart. We're in Salamanca, down on the water. It is a little difficult to kind of navigate your way around the COVID stuff, just because different states have different mandates, and then the NBL have also put different regulations on what we can do when you're moving state to state or wherever you are. And we've also sat down as a team and just spoken about the risk involved in us being very active outside our team kind of setup and team rules. I don't think anyone wants to be the person that brings it into the group. I don't think anyone wants to be the person that locks everyone indoors for a week or 2 weeks or however long it is if someone does get it. I think it is inevitable that it'll happen to the group, but it's just about trying to prolong that and stay as safe as possible for as long as we can, because we haven't travelled yet as well. And we do have a couple of New South Wales trips coming up that could really throw that into a spin, because we can be as careful as possible, but the people around us, and as we've seen in New South Wales, they're kind of running a bit rampant over there, and who knows what happens. So it's nice where we are. The hotels are good. Everyone's in their own individual rooms, big living rooms, kitchens, bedrooms, all the washing facilities and stuff were here. Very similar to the hub last year, but it's just different situation because COVID is actually everywhere over on the East Coast, and we're kind of in the thick of it a little bit in Hobart, where there's 400 or 500 cases a day. Just trying to stay as safe as possible, really. So
social distancing is always important. You got Adelaide this week, and you and Dusty Hannahs didn't really understand the concept of social distancing the last time you met. When you're in Tasmania, you were nose to nose. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, just obviously just something that happens on court. I think he's a good player. He's been playing pretty well recently and doing a good job for them. So, I mean, one of the things I've always managed to do is confront someone or rub someone the wrong way on court and kind of being able to take advantage of a matchup, whether that's to my ability and try to take away something of theirs. And used to be Jerome Randall, used to be one of the guys that I really loved playing, and just kind of trying to get under their skin or rub them the wrong way in terms of taking away from their game plan. And I don't know if I managed to do that, because I got thrown out of the game and Dusty went on to score 13 points in that game in the last quarter. So I don't know if that's a good thing, but we're embracing the challenge of going to Adelaide this weekend and hopefully getting another win and just continuing to build and strive for perfection in a basketball game, which is very difficult, but that's what we want.
Adelaide haven't played since December 18 because of the COVID situation that they've been facing. It's an extraordinary gap when you think about it. Now, you experienced some of the quarantine issues last year. Is it difficult to prepare properly when your training's impacted, your ability to go out to the shops is impacted? Like, do you think they'll notice it once they get back on court?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think this year's a bit different where, we haven't even heard, to be brutally honest. We weren't even sure if the game was going ahead. We weren't sure if we were playing Adelaide, where we were going. It was just kind of floating in the calendar that we could be going there. So we don't really know what they've done. Last year, we were lucky enough when we got to quarantine that the WA government helped us out and set up the facility, and that kind of roped it all off, and we could get in there and train during that stint we had early in the season. So it is difficult. At the end of the day, every team's going to have their challenges, and I don't think anyone's going to relax and take it easy because some teams struggled with COVID and haven't played since December 18. We want to win, they want to win, and at the end of the day, it's our livelihoods that are on the line, start losing games. So, I don't think any of us will be taking it any easier because we're going to Adelaide and they've been in quarantine or they've been locked down. So who knows? I guess we'll just see what happens when the ball gets thrown up. And just looking forward to the battle and the challenge. And it's exciting that we get to play another game. We haven't had that luxury of games just rolling around freely right now. So
yeah, it certainly has been a difficult fixture, and we never know what's going to happen. There will be more changes that the NBL will announce in the coming days as we understand more about what the COVID fixture does look like. Now, if we go to the Dribble MVP votes from last week, we gave one vote to Vic Law for his 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals and a block. 2 votes to Luke Travers. Scott Morrison said he's a jack of all trades, and he certainly showed that with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals and 4 blocks. But it was 3 votes to Bryce Cotton for his dominant performance, 29 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and his 19 points in the second quarter. Well and truly stole the show. Now, Kev, on this Dribble podcast, we have a segment called This or That. You can't sit on the fence, you have to give an actual answer. And we saw key moments late in the final quarter in recent games where the possession arrow has come into play. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't with possession arrow. In stalemates, what would you like the rule to be? Would you like it to stay as possession arrow, or do you prefer a jump ball?
No, I love the jump ball. It's always been something that I've enjoyed. Not that I'm that athletic, and that if I get in a jump, I'm probably waiting for them to tap it and trying to find the closest man to try and steal it. But I love the old school jump ball, possession arrow. You can work as hard as possible to get the ball, and it's just handed to the other team, and they get it back in a tie up. I think the old school jump ball is something that, to be brutally honest, I'm not even sure what the reasoning was behind taking it away. If you're able to tie someone up, I feel like throwing it up and having an advantage for 2 guys to compete for it is a healthy thing. It doesn't slow the game down any different to actually taking the ball to sideline and throwing it in. Yeah, so that's my opinion. I would love to see it brought back in, but I doubt that'll happen.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today, Kev. We really appreciate it. Hope the Zoom call or the FaceTime call or whatever you end up doing for your son's birthday goes really well, and we look forward to watching you continuing to perform well for the Wildcats for the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and stay safe over there, and we'll see you soon.
And now it's time to enter the lair. The Perth Lynx opened their season with an 88-86 loss to Adelaide on Sunday. Perth looked like world beaters at times, especially at the start of the first and third quarters. They led by 14 points in the first quarter and 15 in the third, but Adelaide pulled back both of those leads. And despite leading by 6 points with about 5 minutes to play, Perth couldn't nail a shot as Adelaide stormed home. Import Marina Mabrey was breathtaking with 30 points and multiple 3-pointers from the car park.
Marina Mabrey has turned plenty of heads on debut, and she puts them back within 2. Oh, you're kidding me. Marina Mabrey putting on a 3-point shooting clinic. Mabrey again! You're kidding me! Marina Mabrey introduces herself to the WNBL like nobody we've ever seen.
One man who was watching the game with intent was Andy Stewart, who is the coaching games record holder at the Perth Lynx. He's the last person to lead the club to a grand final, and he was inducted into the Basketball WA Hall of Fame in August. Andy Stewart, welcome to the Dribble Podcast.
Thanks, Craig. Great to be here.
Tough loss for the Lynx. What did you make of it from their first game?
Oh, it's a pretty impressive first outing. To stick 86 points on the board when everybody else has had, multiple games to get themselves ready. It's a pretty good start.
How long do you reckon it takes to get everyone up to speed when you don't have the ability to play practice matches against similar opposition? They've played against NBL 1 teams, but they haven't been playing against players in genuine practice matches. So what's the length of time it will take to build match fitness, do you reckon?
Well, match fitness is weird. I think, I don't know that anybody's actually ever really nailed down how many games it would ever take. But you really want 2 or 3 games, good preseason games under your belt. But even in a preseason game, it's never quite the same. So, I would imagine that most teams are are hitting a good fitness level, 3, 4, 5 games into the season. And that's the advantage that these teams have over the Lynx, in that they've been going for that long and the Lynx haven't been.
So Ryan Petrick basically kept his starting five on for the majority of the game. They all played more than 30 minutes. And then he's got to look at how he does his rotations. Teams are coming back all the time. So it wasn't a simple game to coach with. How difficult is it to work out those rotations early in a season where you're looking at the bench going, I want to bring some of you on, but the scoreboard doesn't necessarily allow me to at the moment?
Well, he sort of did. I mean, he experimented with the bench. I can't recall. It was either late in the first or early in the second. But then the score, came back relatively closely. So you can't blame him for, wanting to go with his first 5 or 6 players. But in the pre-season games or early in the season, everybody's on the same footing. And that's the uniqueness about this season. Obviously, we've never witnessed anything like it.
We saw Marina Mabrey come out and just play some unbelievable basketball. She looks like a serious player, and we knew she was going to be talented, but I don't think we expected to see the sort of shooting that she provided. How damaging can she be in this league if she can continue to shoot like that? Well,
it's not just the shooting; it's the range that she was pulling up from, and when you think you're combining her with Sami Whitcomb, the ability to spread the floor for this group is going to be phenomenal. Very impressive the first half. 20 points at halftime, I think she had. It would certainly shake the foundations of a number of other teams. Is they know that the Lynx are going to be able to put points on the board, and 86 points in your first outing. It's pretty good.
It's interesting when you look at Alana Smith was fantastic for the Lightning, so was Steph Talbot, both coming from the WNBA back to Australia. Sami Whitcomb had a really good game. Marina Mabrey was dominant. Jackie Young was quite good as well. It feels like the players who have had the advantage of playing full seasons in the WNBA are a step ahead of the ones who have experienced the lockdown dramas of not necessarily playing in Australia. Do you see a gap between, an even bigger gap between the ones who've been playing in America and the ones who've been back over here than what it would normally be?
Well, I don't know. Look, when you look at Smith's first couple of games, you wouldn't have thought that. I think she's coming into good form now, just in this last couple of weeks. But I definitely wouldn't have thought that in the first couple of games. She got into quick foul trouble. And she didn't really have an impact. So I don't know. I think we, the Lynx, have got her on a very good day, and she's running into some good form.
You coached Sami Whitcomb when she entered the WNBL, and she was just hoping for an opportunity then. She's now a superstar. When you look at her now, how's she changed as a player from when you coached her last 2018 season to when she's come back now? And she's had some different roles in America, and she's no longer just a three-point shooter, is she?
Absolutely not. And that's the thing. I honestly think that she started to change while she was in the NBL. She was such a good three-point shooter when she first came in, but she developed a skill, the ability to get to the hoop, pretty early in her NBL career. And she had to, and she did a great job of it. But now you look at her and you think, you're a solid defender, you're a good passer, you're a good leader, a great three-point shooter. She's just a real competitor, and a couple of steals she got where she read the play so well. She's turned into, can we say it, that classic all-round player, and I'm so happy for her to think, right at the start of that time, she didn't even know if she was going to play NBL, and now to be, in the Australian team and playing in the NBA, it's just a real credit to her.
Talk us through what your thoughts were when you're watching that last play. A couple of seconds to go. They're 2 points down. Jackie Young was inbounding the ball, and they had to work out. She had a couple of different options on the floor which she could have gone to for Marina or Sami, and then the last gasp decision was to lob it to Lauren Scherf to try to tie the scores. They were obviously working through some different scenarios. How did you view it when you're watching that game?
Well, look, I'm not on the bench, and I don't know what they're running and what the discussion is. So it's pretty hard from a distance. I don't know if they were running Mabrey and Whitcomb as misdirection so that they can throw the lob. That was a possibility. And look, the pass was only a foot or so out. But the thing is that those last second plays right at this point, they wouldn't have been a big... Look, Ryan would have a couple up his sleeve and they would have worked on a few. But the main thing would have been, can we get the majority of the game together? Our fitness, our coordination during the game. And any time that they could have spent on that would have been an absolute bonus. So it's just a shame that it came down to the last shot.
It's interesting for them from here. I actually find their schedule appalling. They flew from South Australia to Victoria on Monday, and they've got 900 kilometres of driving to do for the next 4 games. They're based in the country town of Ballarat. They play in Dandenong and Traralgon this week, which are on the other side of Melbourne. Head back to Ballarat for the following week, and then where they'll practice and train and stuff. And they go to Bendigo, which is north of them, and then back to Ballarat again. You've done the Bendigo to Dandenong trip, which is pretty ordinary. What do you make of this schedule where they're going all around the countryside?
Mate, the one that we did was child's play compared to this, wasn't it? I mean, this is that's just crazy. It's just crazy. I just hope that they can get some some of the bench on the floor. If the top 5 are going to play over 30 minutes each game, it's going to be a very tough ask to be able to drive like that and then play that many minutes and then do it again night after night. It's a very tough ask. Look, I mean, we had some horrible scheduling back a few years ago, but at least we were sitting in a plane, and moving to a hotel room sort of thing. I mean, sitting in a car for hours, it's going to be draining. It's going to be a real make or break for them from a team perspective as well. You just hope that they get on great, and whoever's in charge of the music in I presume they'll be getting around in vans. I just hope they'll get on.
Do you think that the players will be a bit shocked by it? Like, it's one thing to be told you're going to be playing in regional Victoria. It's another thing to actually look at the map and realise where you're going. I doubt they would have looked at the map, and I reckon they've been for a bit of a shock. Would you agree that they may not understand the gravity of what they're about to go through?
Oh, look, I think the majority of the players would have a bit of a fair idea. I don't know about the imports, but still, they at college would have done travelling all across across their country as well. It's a tough ask, and when you're asking, 6'2", 6'3" bodies to wrap themselves up and sit in a van or a bus for long periods of time, it's just not great recovery, and it'll be a real test.
Now, if we go to the Dribble MVP votes from last weekend, I've given 1 vote to Darcy Garvin, whose ability to hit key shots at key times when the team desperately needed it was so important. She finished with 15 points and 3 steals. 2 votes to Sami Whitcomb, who didn't necessarily shoot the ball well, but her 13 points was combined with 7 assists, and her 3 steals were extremely damaging. And it was no contest for the 3 votes, with Marina Mabrey, 30 points, 7 3-pointers, 5 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 steals. It was a dominant performance. Andy, tell us what you're doing at the moment. What are you up to at the moment from a basketball perspective?
Wow. Look, I'm enjoying coaching kids. It's school holidays at the moment. There's a few kids back from the Centre of Excellence. We're doing some work with them, and I run a couple of school programs. So we're getting ready for them and running a couple of off-season, camps and that sort of stuff, and just enjoying, working with young kids. There's some real talent in Western Australia at this point in time, and I don't know how the numbers stack up, but I know that there's a number of kids from Perth now at the Centre of Excellence, or making Australian junior squads. it's quite exciting to see.
Certainly is. The amount of talent that's coming through is quite amazing from WA, which is great for the sport. Now, we have a segment on the Dribble called This or That. You can't sit on the fence. You got to come out with an actual answer. And we've seen key moments in several games this season, both in the WNBL and the NBL, where possession arrow has come into play. When a stalemate occurs like that, what would you like the rule to be? Possession arrow, or did you prefer when it was a jump ball?
Jump ball.
And why?
Well, you could set a strategy around it, even if it was smaller. And so, you could steal a tip. It was actually a skill in the game, was that ability to read the tip and steal it. And I think they've taken something out of the game.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on the Dribble Podcast, Andy. Always a pleasure to talk to you and always good to get your insights into the game. So we hope things continue to go well for you with the basketball stuff off the court and the family goes well, and we hope the Lynx continue to perform well and you keep enjoying watching them.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure.
Well, remember, keep logging on to thewest.com.au for all your basketball news. Pick up your copy of The West Australian as well. Thanks to Samantha Rogers for all of her outstanding production work. And thanks to Kevin White and Andy Stewart for their time. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Dribble Podcast.